Welcome to From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers, a podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career, and hosted by Work Defined. Join our AI co-hosts as they dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Let's get your career started.
I want you to imagine a scenario that is, well, it's probably a little too real for a lot of people tracking the federal employment space lately.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right. You've been standing out in this proverbial freezing cold for like the better part of a year, just waiting in this massive static line to get into the biggest employer in the United States.
Yeah, just completely stuck.
Exactly. Because for months, the federal hiring freeze has been the absolute bane of job seekers and, honestly, agency heads alike.
Oh, the agency heads were pulling their hair out, yeah.
Right. Everyone has just been stuck in this this endless holding pattern. But then finally you hear the heavy deadbolts unlatch, right?
The thaw.
The thaw. The freeze is over. The doors swing open. But as you step up with your standard, highly polished resume, you realize the government didn't just reopen the doors.
No, they didn't.
While everybody was waiting out in the cold, OPM completely changed the locks.
Yeah, they really did. The key that worked in 2024, it doesn't even slide into the mechanism in 2026.
Not even a little bit.
No, we are looking at a structural teardown of how the federal government evaluates human capital. I mean, it's massive.
And that new locking mechanism, that's the entire focus of our deep dive today.
Absolutely.
We're pulling from this really fantastic March 2026 brief. It was published by the career experts over at College Recruiter.
Oh, they do great work.
They really do. And for those of you who are deep in the talent acquisition space, you'll probably recognize them as the team behind the High Volume Hiring podcast.
Right, yeah.
When they talk about talent acquisition at this massive, federal level scale, they bring the receipts.
They absolutely have the data to back it up.
So our mission today is to dig into the newly implemented 2026 Merit Hiring Plan. We are going to move past all those flashy headlines and explore the actual mechanics of this huge shift.
Because it is a seismic shift, really.
Yeah, this shift from degree-based to skills-based hiring. And we want to figure out exactly how students and recent graduates and even private sector employers can navigate a landscape that has basically just shifted right under our feet.
Yeah, I mean, the scale of this transition is staggering. We're talking about rewriting the talent pipeline for over 2 million civilian employees?
2 million, which is, usually a punchline, right? Like the idea of the federal government moving quickly or innovating, it's an oxymoron. We are so used to this giant glacial bureaucracy.
Moving at the speed of molasses, yeah.
Exactly. But reading through this College Recruiter breakdown, it's like the Office of Personnel Management is suddenly operating with the kind of, ruthless agility you'd expect from a Silicon Valley tech startup.
Yeah, like a startup that just realized its core product is completely obsolete.
Yes, exactly that.
But, necessity forces agility.
Right.
To really understand why OPM finally pulled the trigger on the 2026 Merit Hiring Plan, we really have to look back at the catalyst.
2025 realignment.
Exactly, the 2025 realignment.
Yeah.
Because the federal hiring freeze wasn't just some standard budgetary maneuver. It was a symptom of a much deeper crisis.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was terrible. Agencies across the board, we're talking from the Department of Defense to the EPA to CISA, they were all facing a critical failure in their ability to fill specialized, highly technical roles.
I was actually looking at some of the postmortems from the Department of Energy during that 2025 period, and it was wild.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, they were trying to spin up these entirely new grid modernization projects, right? And they were bleeding talent because their hiring process was taking like an average of 140 days.
Wow. 140 days. You lose everyone to the private sector that way.
Exactly. And the craziest part was that they were automatically rejecting brilliant, cloud architects. And why? Because those architects didn't hold a traditional 4-year bachelor's degree.
Right. They were hitting the wall.
Yeah, they were hitting what the College Recruiter folks call the paper ceiling.
The paper ceiling. It's the perfect descriptor, honestly.
It really is.
Because for decades, the bachelor's degree functioned as this inflexible binary proxy for talent. If you were looking at an entry-level GS5 or GS7 role, the system essentially operated like a stubborn bouncer at a nightclub.
Oh, I love that analogy. The bouncer just checking IDs.
Exactly. The bouncer didn't care if you were a self-taught cybersecurity prodigy.
Right.
Someone who had been finding zero-day vulnerabilities since they were in high school. If you didn't have that specific piece of paper, the degree from an accredited institution, you were a non-entity to the system.
The bouncer just says, nope, not on the list.
Right. Get out of line. So OPM was legally blinding itself to a massive swath of the American talent pool.
But wait, I have to ask. The GS scale and its strict educational requirements, they've been the bedrock of federal hiring since what, the 1949 Classification Act?
Basically, yeah. A very long time.
So even with the crisis in 2025, overturning a 70-year-old bureaucratic framework seems like a monumental risk. I mean, the government loves its bureaucracy. Why change the rules now?
Well, what's fascinating here is that a localized patch just wouldn't have solved the systemic rot. Yeah. The realization at the highest levels of OPM was that the traditional degree had completely decoupled from practical capability, especially in the fast-moving tech sector.
Oh, sure.
They were turning away the exact demographics they desperately needed. People trained in agile methodologies, data science, modern network architecture.
Because you don't always learn those in a four-year college anymore.
Exactly. Those fields are increasingly taught in boot camps, or through industry certifications, or even just through rigorous self-directed open-source contributions.
Right.
So the 2026 Merit Hiring Plan introduces a very aggressive new rule. For the overwhelming majority of federal roles, agencies are now explicitly prohibited from using a college degree as a knockout factor.
Explicitly prohibited. Wow.
Yeah, as long as the candidate can demonstrate their skills through alternative talent pipelines.
Okay, explicitly prohibited. That's a massive legal distinction. It means an HR specialist at, say, the Department of Agriculture, they can no longer run a resume through their applicant tracking system and just automatically filter out anyone without a BA or BS.
Right. They can't do it.
They have to actually evaluate the applicant's alternative talent pipelines.
Correct. The alternative talent pipelines are now codified as basically equivalent vectors of entry.
Okay.
We are looking at military technical training, specific industry certifications, recognized apprenticeships, and specialized vocational boot camps. The source of the skill is no longer the primary filter. The presence of the skill is.
So they fired the bouncer who only checked for degrees.
Exactly.
But, okay, let's look at the friction point here, because they still need to filter candidates. If OPM removes the 4-year degree as the primary filtering mechanism, they're opening the floodgates.
Oh, total deluge of applications. Yeah.
Right. The High Volume Hiring podcast folks talk about this all the time. When you remove a barrier to entry, your applicant volume skyrockets.
It goes through the roof.
So how does a federal HR department, which is, let's be honest, already notoriously slow, actually assess 10,000 applicants for a data analyst role without just leaning on university brand names to thin the herd? How do they test for skills without looking at a diploma?
This is the operational core of the 2026 shift. The entire application lifecycle has been totally re-engineered.
Okay.
We are moving from passive credential verification to active, multi-stage competency assessment.
Oh, active assessment.
Right. In the past, applying for a federal job was basically an exercise in compliance. You filled out the forms, you checked the box that said degree in hand, and you waited.
And waited and waited.
Yeah. Now, the new system demands active demonstration of skill. The college recruiter breakdown points to this really rigorous new sequence. And it starts with a completely revamped occupational questionnaire.
Oh, boy. The end of the checkbox. Now, anyone who has ever navigated USA JBS knows the dreaded occupational questionnaire.
Oh, absolutely.
Historically, it was essentially this multiple choice self-assessment where you rated yourself from, like, I have no experience to I am a literal expert who is consulted by others.
Right, the classic 1 to 5 scale.
Yes. And it always felt like a weird honesty test that just incentivized lying.
Well, yeah.
Because if everyone knows that rating yourself a 5 out of 5 is the only way to get your resume seen by an actual human being, then everyone is obviously going to rate themselves a 5 out of 5.
Of course they are.
So how does this new questionnaire solve that fundamental flaw?
The difference in the 2026 implementation is the immediate verification mechanism.
Immediate verification.
Yeah. The questionnaire is no longer a standalone document. It is directly tethered to the next phase, which is Hurdle 2, a live skills-based assessment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The old system allowed you to bluff your way to an interview. The new system uses the questionnaire merely as a routing tool. It determines which simulation you're going to be dropped into.
Wait. So if I claim expert-level proficiency in, say, Python on the questionnaire?
The system doesn't just pass your resume along. It dynamically generates a Python debugging simulation that you have to complete right then and there.
A live simulation. So they are essentially making you do the job before they even consider giving you the job?
Exactly.
I imagine this completely changes the anxiety profile of the application process. I'd be sweating.
Oh, it creates a very high barrier of practical entry. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is not an IQ test. It is a highly practical simulation.
Right.
The source material provides some excellent illustrations of this. For an IT management role, like something in the 2010 series, you aren't just answering hypothetical multiple-choice questions about network security anymore.
No more, what would you do if?
Exactly. You might be placed in a proctored, sandboxed digital environment. They hand you a raw, malfunctioning code snippet, or they ask you to identify a specific vulnerability in a simulated network topography.
That is brutal for the people who are used to coasting on the prestige of their alma mater.
Oh, completely.
But it's absolutely brilliant for the self-taught developers.
It levels the playing field.
But wait, how does this scale to non-technical roles? Like, it's easy to test raw code. How do you simulate a program analyst or a communications director?
Well, the simulations are surprisingly nuanced for non-STEM fields, too.
Really?
Yeah. For an administrative or program analysis role, the assessment might present a candidate with a massive dump of raw, conflicting data.
Like what?
We're talking budget spreadsheets, contradictory emails from department heads, shifting deadlines, just a mess.
Oh, the daily reality of government work.
Exactly. And the task is to synthesize that chaos into a single, coherent, one-page executive memo within a strict time limit.
Wow.
It tests information parsing, prioritization, and written communication in a high-stress environment, which is exactly what the actual job entails.
I love that because you really can't fake the ability to synthesize chaos. You either can do it or you panic.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. So you attest to your skills on the questionnaire, you prove them in a vacuum during the simulation, but there is another layer to this, right?
There is. Hurdle 3.
Hurdle 3. The college recruiter brief heavily emphasizes the narrative experience proof.
Yes, the narrative proof.
And I know the federal government has always loved the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. But if they are already simulating the job, why are they doubling down on these highly structured narrative essays? What does narrative proof even mean in this new context?
Well, the simulation proves you possess the technical capability in isolation.
Okay.
But the narrative proof, the STAR method, demonstrates your ability to deploy that capability within a complex human system.
The human element.
Right. It's the difference between knowing how to write code and knowing how to write code that actually solves a stakeholder's problem while navigating, office politics and budget constraints.
Yeah, totally different skill sets.
And OPM knows that candidates are highly aware of the STAR method now. So the evaluators are looking for extreme specificity. You can't just list a skill. You have to tell a highly structured story proving you executed that competency successfully.
Right, because vague leadership claims are just useless now. If you say, I use my communication skills to improve team efficiency, that's getting thrown straight into the trash.
Immediately.
They want you to say, the agency was facing a 30% backlog in FOIA requests. That's your situation. I was tasked with clearing the bottleneck. Task. I built an automated sorting macro using Python to categorize incoming requests by urgency. Action.
Perfect.
Which reduced the backlog to 0 within 3 weeks and saved 40 hours of manual labor per month. Result.
That exact level of granularity is the new baseline. And you brought up a crucial point about the human element. The evaluators are scanning these narratives to ensure the candidate understands the context of their work, not just the raw technical execution.
It's all about proving value. But, I have to pause here.
Okay.
If it's all about proving you have highly specific practical skills and passing these intense simulations, doesn't that put a 22-year-old fresh graduate at a massive disadvantage?
How do you mean?
Well, imagine a 22-year-old against a 45-year-old with 20 years of real-world experience navigating those complex human systems and executing those exact tasks. On paper, a skills-based system sounds like a death knell for youth.
That is the logical assumption, yeah. And it's a concern that was heavily debated prior to the 2026 rollout.
I bet.
You would completely expect the seasoned professional with a massive portfolio of past work to just dominate the simulations.
Right.
However, the data coming out of the early implementation phases, which the College Recruiter article highlights, shows a fascinating subversion of that expectation.
Sure.
Counterintuitively, the skills over degrees policy is heavily favoring the new graduate. It's creating a massive tailwind for what the source calls digital natives.
A tailwind for new grads. That feels entirely paradoxical. The 45-year-old has 2 decades of reps. The 22-year-old has, what, a few semesters of theory? Where is the advantage?
The advantage lies in the specific nature of the skills the government is desperately trying to acquire. The government is on this massive hunt for digital natives. Because the federal thaw didn't just reopen positions, it accelerated the adoption of what we are calling future-proof skills.
Future-proof skills.
Right. The agencies aren't looking to hire people to manage their legacy systems. They're hiring people to dismantle those legacy systems and build the infrastructure of 2030.
Oh, I see. So we are talking about the bleeding edge competencies. The brief specifically mentions AI prompt engineering, advanced data visualization, modern cybersecurity frameworks, and agile project management.
Exactly. Consider the trajectory of AI prompt engineering. 10 years ago, it wasn't even a discipline.
Not at all.
5 years ago, it was a niche curiosity. Today, it is a mission-critical capability for automating federal data processing.
Yeah, you literally can't run a modern data pipeline without it.
So the mid-career professional who earned their degree in, say, 2005, they did not study large language models.
Nope.
Their 20 years of experience might be deeply tied to archaic proprietary databases and bureaucratic workflows that the government is actively trying to sunset.
That is a phenomenal insight. The legacy experience might actually be a liability if it's anchored to outdated paradigms.
It often is.
It's like having 20 years of experience repairing steam engines when the industry has moved entirely to electric motors.
Great analogy, yeah.
Your deep knowledge of steam pressure is totally useless, and you have to spend time unlearning all those old habits.
Exactly the issue.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the new grad coming out of an intensive, 6-month data science boot camp or an updated university curriculum, they possess the absolute most current technical vocabulary.
Right.
They are natively fluent in the tools the government wants to implement tomorrow.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It completely inverts the traditional corporate hierarchy, where time in seat was the ultimate metric of value.
Oh, totally inverted.
The government is literally valuing a 22-year-old's fresh boot camp skills more highly than 2 decades of legacy experience tied to an outdated system. I imagine that is causing some serious cultural friction within the agencies themselves.
It's causing a massive paradigm shift in how teams are structured, for sure. But for the listener who falls into that digital native category, or even the mid-career professional who has taken the time to completely reskill, this is an unprecedented window of opportunity.
Oh, a massive window.
The question then becomes one of application mechanics.
Right. Okay, so the listener has these fresh skills. They are digital native. How do they actually format their application to win the game and get hired this March? Because you can't just walk into a federal building and start talking to ChatGPT to prove, prompt engineering.
No. You still have to interface with the bureaucracy to get to the simulation stage.
Exactly. And the College Recruiter article lays out a very clear operational playbook for this post-freeze environment. So let's break down the 3 strategies to win the skills-based game. Strategy 1, map your coursework to competencies.
This is a critical pivot for recent graduates. Under the old system, the degree itself was the payload. Your resume simply listed BA in communications or BS in mechanical engineering, and you just relied on the HR department's preconceived notions of what those degrees entailed.
You let them fill in the blanks.
Exactly. But in a skills-based system, relying on the title of your major is a guaranteed way to get filtered out before you ever see a simulation.
Because communications is an abstract category, not a capability.
Right.
The way I think about it is treat your college degree like a raw data set. You spent 4 years writing massive research papers, organizing group projects, analyzing data sets for labs, and presenting findings.
All raw data.
Right. And that raw data needs to be translated into a foreign language, the language of a 2026 merit hiring plan.
Translation is the exact right framework. You have to deconstruct your academic history into professional deliverables.
Let's give them a specific example from the source.
Okay, the article provides a sharp contrast. The old way was writing BA in communications, graduated 2025. Very.
Get ready to turn up the volume on your HR game. I'm Jay Arnold, former musician turned HR leader and host of Backstage Pass, the HR Rockstar. Each episode pulls back the curtain on key HR topics, from leadership lessons and bold career pivots to the latest in HR tech and talent strategies, featuring the rock stars within their industries. If you're ready to shake up the status quo and amplify your impact, this is your all-access pass. You can catch the show on the Work Defined Podcast Network, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe now, and let's rock the future of work together.
The 2026 method demands something like engineered a 40-page strategic communication plan for a local nonprofit, utilizing Adobe Creative Suite for data visualization and SEO analytics to increase their web traffic by 15%.
Look at the density of that second example.
It's packed.
It hits multiple future-proof skills simultaneously. It shows strategic planning, mastery of specific software, and data analysis resulting in a measurable outcome. Let's do another one. Take a generic engineering student.
Okay.
Instead of saying completed senior design project they need to write, let a cross-functional team of 5 to prototype a thermodynamic sensor using CAD software, managing the project timeline via agile methodologies to deliver the prototype 2 weeks under budget.
That formulation does two crucial things.
Yeah.
First, it hits the keyword triggers that the initial screening algorithms are looking for. Words like agile, CAD, cross-functional.
Getting past the initial digital bots.
Right. Second, it prepares the candidate for the STAR narrative. By framing their academic work as professional deliverables, they are already structuring their past experiences into situation, task, action, and result. It proves results, not just attendance.
Oh, that's incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Which flows perfectly into strategy 2. Stack your certifications. This is the micro-credential boom, right?
Yes.
We've been hearing about the micro-credential boom for years, but the federal government has fully bought into the hype now.
They haven't just bought into the hype, they have weaponized it to bypass their own red tape.
Weaponized it.
Truly. The source explicitly calls out certifications like the Google Data Analytics Certificate, the CompTIA Security Plus for cybersecurity, and the Project Management Professional, or PMP, designation.
I was actually reading that in the current landscape, a specialized 6-month CompTIA certification might actually hold more weight with a hiring manager than a generalized master's degree from a mid-tier university.
That's true.
That is a wild reversal of prestige. Why does the federal apparatus suddenly value these hyper-specific micro-credentials so highly?
Well, it's not just about the knowledge contained in the certification. It's about the legal mechanisms those certifications unlock.
Ooh, legal loopholes.
Exactly. This is where we have to discuss direct hire authority, or DHA.
Okay, let's get into the weeds on DHA because this is the secret sauce for bypassing those massive federal waiting periods.
Ordinarily, Title V of the U.S. Code dictates a very strict, very slow, competitive service process for hiring federal employees.
Right, the usual slog.
It involves veterans' preference scoring, mandatory public notice requirements, complex rating systems. It takes months.
Forever.
But when OPM identifies a severe shortage of candidates or a critical hiring need, they issue a direct hire authority for specific roles. This allows an agency to bypass the standard competitive rating and ranking process entirely.
Wait, entirely. So if a hiring manager has DHA, they don't have to wait months for HR to curate a list of candidates. If they find someone who is qualified, they can just point and hire.
Precisely. They just point and hire. And this is where the micro-credentials become invaluable. An agency head needs undeniable, objective justification to use that DHA power.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. A CompTIA Security Plus certification is an industry-standard, verifiable proof of competency. If a candidate holds that certification, the hiring manager can use it as the legal justification to execute a rapid hire under DHA. The micro-credential is literally the skeleton key that unlocks the fast track.
That is amazing. So for the listener building their resume right now, you do not bury your Google Data Analytics certificate at the bottom of page 2 under hobbies and volunteer work.
Absolutely not.
You put it dead center at the very top of the page. It is your primary value proposition.
It needs to be the very first thing the evaluator sees, because agencies are using these micro-credentials to scoop up talent quickly.
Wow. Okay, so mapping coursework, stacking certs. What is strategy 3?
Strategy 3 is to embrace the high-impact jobs series.
The government's absolute love for numerical categorization.
They do love their numbers.
Every single role has a 4-digit code, and navigating USA JOBS without knowing those codes is like trying to navigate a new city without a map.
Very true. Those numerical series dictate everything from pay scales to career progression. And in the wake of the thaw, OPM has explicitly flagged certain series as the testing grounds for the most aggressive skills-based hiring initiatives.
So these are the fast-tracked series?
Yes. If you want to leverage your micro-credentials and bypass the traditional degree filters, you need to focus your applications on these specific numbers. It's the fastest way through the newly opened doors.
Let's break them down so the listener knows exactly where to point their compass. The brief outlines 4 fast-track series. First up is Series 2210.
Series 2210 is Information Technology Management.
Okay.
This is the absolute bleeding edge of the federal infrastructure. We're talking about the people building out zero-trust architecture, managing massive cloud migrations, and securing the data pipelines that keep the government functioning.
The digital plumbers and security guards?
Right. If you have any background in network security, system administration, or modern IT frameworks, the 2210 series is where the agencies are bleeding talent and are desperate for new blood.
Okay, so Series 2210 is the IT powerhouse. Next on the list is Series 1550.
1550 is computer science. While 2210 is often focused on managing systems, 1550 is much more deeply rooted in the theoretical and developmental side.
The builders.
Exactly, the builders. These are the software engineers, the algorithm designers, and the data scientists who are building the bespoke tools the agencies need. This is where those AI prompt engineering skills and advanced coding proficiencies are most heavily concentrated.
So 2210 and 1550 are your pure tech plays. But, what if the listener isn't a coder? What if their skills are more operational? The third one is Series 0343.
Series 0343 is program analysis.
Program analysis.
And this is really the hidden engine of the federal government. Program analysts are the systems thinkers. They're the people who look at a sprawling, multi-billion-dollar federal initiative, analyze the operational data, identify the bottlenecks, and redesign the workflows using agile project management.
That sounds like a role where the ability to synthesize chaos, like in the memo simulation example we talked about earlier, is absolutely paramount.
It is the core of the job.
Yeah.
If your background is in process optimization, logistics, or operational efficiency, the 0343 series is incredibly high impact right now.
Good to know. And finally, the 4th fast-track series is 0511.
Series 0511 is auditing.
Auditing. Sounds dry.
It sounds dry, but it's vital. These are the financial and operational watchdogs. But it's important to understand that modern auditing isn't just sitting with a calculator looking at paper ledgers anymore.
Right, it's 2026.
Exactly. It is highly technical data analysis. They're using advanced visualization tools to track massive flows of federal spending, identify fraud patterns, and ensure compliance across sprawling, complex agencies.
So to recap the treasure map, 2210 for IT management, 1550 for computer science, 0343 for program analysis, and 0511 for auditing.
That's the map.
The strategy here is focus. Instead of blasting your resume out to every random department hoping for a bite, you use the search filters to exclusively target those 4 series because that is where the hiring managers have the most flexibility and the most urgent mandates to hire based on skills.
It saves you so much time and heartbreak.
No, I love the mechanics of this. I really do. But I have to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I know listeners are thinking about the most infuriating paradox in the entire modern job market.
Oh, I think I know what's coming.
Yeah. Let's say someone follows this playbook flawlessly. They translated their college coursework into stellar competency statements. They went out and earned a CompTIA Security Plus certification. They target a Series 2210 IT management role that is explicitly labeled entry level.
Okay.
They click on the listing, and right there in the basic requirements, it demands 3 years of documented professional experience.
Ah, yes. The quintessential catch-22, the 3-year paradox.
It drives people absolutely insane. You need experience to get the entry-level job, but you need the entry-level job to get the experience. How does this new plan fix that? Because if they are still demanding 3 years of corporate W-2 experience for a GS5 role, then all this talk about skills-based hiring is just window dressing.
I completely understand the frustration.
Yeah.
But this is perhaps the most culturally significant shift buried within the new policy.
Okay, hit me with it.
The 2026 plan doesn't just change the educational requirements, it radically broadens the legal definition of what constitutes equivalent experience.
Equivalent experience loophole.
Yes, this raises an important question. What actually counts as experience now? The catch-22 is being dismantled by a massive expansion of what HR is allowed to count towards that 3-year minimum.
Okay, because we have to remember the psychology of the federal apparatus right now. The freeze forced an unnatural period of stagnation.
Total submission.
Now that the thaw's here, agency directors are operating with pure, unfiltered pragmatism.
They have to. They do not have the luxury of waiting 6 months for a candidate who has a perfectly linear, traditional corporate resume. They need seats filled yesterday.
Right. So what does this equivalent experience actually look like in practice?
OPM has empowered hiring managers to look at the totality of a candidate's background. The College Recruiter article outlines several specific avenues that historically would have been dismissed by rigid HR filters, but are now legally bankable as professional experience.
Okay.
The first is rigorous internships.
Right, but we aren't talking about fetching coffee and making copies, right?
Yeah, no, qualitative bar is high. But if you spent 6 months or a year as an intern doing actual demonstrable technical work like managing a database, assisting in network migrations, or drafting policy memos, that time is now explicitly counted toward the experience requirement.
That's huge for students.
Yeah.
What about work outside of a traditional corporate structure? Because the gig economy is massive right now.
That is the second major avenue. Freelance and entrepreneurial work.
Oh, really?
Yes. If a candidate spent 2 years running a small freelance business out of their apartment building websites for local businesses, managing client databases, handling the cybersecurity for a small medical practice, that is now recognized as equivalent experience.
Wow.
You don't need a W-2 from a Fortune 500 company to prove you know how to execute a project.
That is a massive validation for the entrepreneurial hustle. It acknowledges that building a business from scratch, even a small one, requires an immense amount of operational skill.
It really does.
And the source also mentions volunteer work, which is fascinating to me.
High-stakes volunteer roles are incredibly valuable under the new framework. If you manage the digital infrastructure for a massive community nonprofit, or if you organize the logistics and data tracking for a regional political campaign, you are deploying highly complex program analysis and IT management skills.
Yeah, that's real work.
OPM is finally recognizing that the value of the experience is not dictated by whether you were paid a salary to do it. The pragmatism is winning out.
So, what does this all mean? The underlying theme here is incredible. The federal government, which for decades has been the ultimate ivory tower demanding prestigious pedigrees, has fundamentally realigned its identity.
A total identity shift.
It has been forced by the realities of the modern labor market to become a hungry, results-oriented machine. They no longer care if your skills were forged in an Ivy League classroom, an intensive online boot camp, or while volunteering for a local charity.
No, they don't care about the pedigree anymore.
The only question that matters now is, can you hit the ground running, pass the simulation, write the narrative, and solve the immediate challenges facing the agency today?
That's it. It is the democratization of federal employment. The artificial barriers have been stripped away, and the playing field has been leveled in a way we haven't seen in nearly a century.
This has been such a dense and incredibly valuable deep dive. Let's do a quick recap, a distillation of the tactical advice we've pulled from the High Volume Hiring Podcast Network and this College Recruiter Brief.
Sounds good.
The freeze is over. The 2026 Merit Hiring Plan has completely killed the paper ceiling.
Dead and gone.
If you want to capitalize on this, you need to stop relying on the title of your degree and start translating your coursework into concrete, measurable competencies.
Map it out.
You need to identify the future-proof skills you possess, like agile management or AI prompt engineering, and highlight them aggressively.
Yes.
Stack your micro-credentials at the top of your resume to unlock direct hire authority, and focus your search on those high-impact series like 2210 and 0343.
The fast tracks.
And most importantly, leverage the equivalent experience loophole to turn your freelance work and rigorous internships into the keys that bypass that awful entry-level trap. The class of 2026 has the best opportunity in a generation to launch a public service career.
It really is a phenomenal playbook for navigating the current reality. But, to pull the lens back one final time, I think there is a broader implication here that goes far beyond USA Joe, OBS, and the federal bureaucracy.
Oh, where does this lead us?
Well, consider the ripple effect. The United States federal government is arguably the most risk-averse, legally constrained, and traditionally credential-obsessed employer on the planet.
Without a doubt.
Yet, they have looked at the data and officially concluded that a traditional 4-year bachelor's degree is a less reliable predictor of job success than a targeted skills boot camp and a practical simulation.
Yeah, they've admitted it.
So if the federal Leviathan has fully committed to this skills-based reality, how long will it take for the massive Fortune 500 private sector companies to completely abandon the college degree requirement altogether?
Wow.
Are we watching the beginning of the end for the traditional university monopoly on the job market?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. If the federal government is changing the locks, corporate America is absolutely watching to see who walks through the doors first.
They're taking notes.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. The freeze has thawed, the landscape is entirely new, and the opportunities are massive for those who know how to play the new game. So go out there, take these strategies, stack those certifications, rethink your resumes, and get ready to prove what you can actually build.
This has been From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers. A podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career. Each episode, we dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Subscribe to this podcast for free now, so you don't miss an episode, and visit www.collegerecruiter.com to find your next great job.